Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about whether Klee is worth your Primogems. Now, we know Klee is confirmed to be dropping tomorrow as of October 20th. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity to go ahead and talk and give you maybe some advice or some information and give you a better idea of whether you would want to actually pull for Klee or not in today's video. Now, normally in this situation we would talk about just Klee herself and what she's bringing to the table and how good this character actually is, because I do believe she's a really good character, but there's a bit of a caveat in the aspect of this character called Xiao. Now, with Klee being confirmed to drop tomorrow, this gives a better indication that Xiao will be the next character after Klee, just based off of what we've seen as far as leaks or rumors or whatever you want to call it. So with that being said, I think it would be wise to take that into consideration. I don't believe you should be thinking about pulling for Klee without taking into consideration Xiao being next, right? And with that being said, I do want to preface the video by saying if you are a whale, this doesn't necessarily pertain to you, because you will probably in all likelihood be pulling for both characters, right? Unless you don't like either one of them, then that's understandable, but in all likelihood you will be pulling for both, so this doesn't really pertain to you. This is more for my free-to-play players or for my light spenders to get a better idea of where their Primogems will be most useful. So with that being said, I do want to just really quickly mention this and get this out the way. I think Klee is an amazing character. I'm going to say that right off the bat. I mentioned that in past videos as well. I think she is an extremely good character, and I think she can be absurdly strong in certain situations, especially when you start deep diving into her constellations, because I think that's where Klee starts to become godlike. But in her regular kit, what you get when you get Klee just by herself without getting any dupes, she is amazing right off the bat, right? She is extremely strong, and she has a lot of good utility, and she has a lot of good versatility, and she meshes well with the team, especially being pyro, especially being AoE pyro. But where she becomes extremely good is, I believe, in her passive talents, which we can talk about at this time. So for her passive talent 1, when Jumpty Dumpty and normal attacks deal damage, Klee has a 50% chance to obtain an explosive spark. The explosive spark is consumed by the next charge attack, which costs no stamina and deals 50% increased damage. That is absolutely amazing, and I think that's a really, really good passive talent 1. And then her passive talent 2, Sparkling Burst, I think this is where Klee just becomes really, really good, is when Klee's charge attack results in a crit, all party members gain 2 elemental energy, to the point where you can actually now see how you would want to build your Klee. And if you go with a crit build, Klee then becomes a very good supporting character for your team, and she is able to build a scenario where you're going to have just an ultimate fiesta, right? An elemental burst fiesta on your team, to where you're just popping those off between all your party members left and right, nonchalant like, and it's going to be amazing, absolutely amazing, and it's going to be tons of fun to run something like that and to have the ability to be able to do things like that, right? And then if you start, like I mentioned, deep diving into her constellations, this is where I think Klee starts to be absurdly good. But in most scenarios, even speaking about myself, that's not really going to be a realistic thing until later down the road in the future, to where you start pulling dupes of Klee. So that's not something that I really want to go into, because it's not going to be, you know, realistic for most individuals, right? Especially my free-to-play players or my light spenders, who I'm primarily catering to at this time right now in this video. So, but those 2 passive talents is what you obtain when you just get Klee alone, which I know you're aware of. But those 2 I think are extremely important, and I think those 2 are what really brings out the potential in Klee and why she is going to be an amazing character. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Klee is going to be extremely strong. She's going to be extremely good, and she's going to synergize with your team, especially if you don't have any good pyro characters. If you are missing out on Diluc, if you haven't really built up your Bennett, and your Xiao is just doesn't really fit your gameplay style, then Klee is going to be amazing for you. She's going to do the job, and she's going to do the job really well. But like I mentioned, we have to take into account that Xiao is and most likely will be the next character after Klee. And Xiao, from what I've seen in certain gameplays, I have not played with him personally, so I can't speak about personal accounts, but he is seemingly to be a very strong character. The only thing about Xiao though is that he seems to be really only DPS oriented and is not really providing the rest of the team too much of anything as far as supporting outside of just his typing, being an Anemo typing, right? So if I take a look at his skills, they're basically all just DPS skills, which is pretty normal when it comes to characters. That's nothing out of the norm. When I take a look at his passive talents, looking at passive talent 1 starting, Bane of Evil increases Xiao's damage by 5%. After this, Xiao's damage continues to increase by 5% every 3 seconds until the skill ends, max 25% increase. That's tons of damage. Now keep in mind, when Xiao actually releases officially, these numbers and these talents, as far as they're worded, could change. They could be a little bit different, so we have to take that with into consideration and take what we're reading with a grain of salt. But we can assume that they're going to be relatively the same and not change a whole lot. So that passive talent 1 is absolutely insane. It's incredible. That's going to allow Xiao to hit extremely hard. And then taking a look at the passive talent 2, when Lemmistatic Wind Cycling, I believe I pronounced that right, is used, increases all subsequent Lemnistic Wind Cycling's damage by 10% for 6 seconds, max 3 secs. So that is, once again, extremely beneficial for Xiao. But in Xiao's kit, just his kit alone, right, with no dupes, because once again, that's not going to be realistic for most people, he seems to be just a pure damage dealer, just an extreme DPS character who's going to be doing tons and tons of damage, right? But doesn't show to have any real supporting capabilities for your team to be able to allow your team to hit harder or give energy back to your team so they can start, you know, getting their elemental bursts going. And I think that's what I wanted to make the clearest difference between Klee and Xiao, is that Klee can be an absurd damage dealer, but she also has that supporting capabilities built into her kit, whereas Xiao seemingly does not. Now, once again, when he officially drops, that can change. They could put some type of supporting capabilities in there, and that will make Xiao infinitely better. But as of right now, he's seemingly to be just an extreme damage dealer, one to where, and there's nothing wrong with this, by the way, where you take him out and you just let him loose and he just runs rampant on the enemies, right? Nothing wrong with that. I actually implore you to have a main DPS character where that's their only job, is to just do damage on your team, right? For example, on my team, I have Razor, and Razor's just pure DPS. I take him out and I let him go crazy, and that's, I think that's a good thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But why I wanted to make that clear distinction between Klee and Xiao is because Klee can be that for you, that DPS, let her run rampant and let her run loose and go crazy on the enemies. But she also comes with that supporting capability, right? She also comes with that versatility to be able to help the team out, where Xiao seemingly does not, based off of what I see right now. So with that being said, and with that being taken into account, what you have to do now is reflect back on your account and see exactly what you need and see who you want. You know, who are you more interested in? Do you prefer Xiao because, you know, he's Husbando and you like him and he's a Nemo and you need a really good Anemo character? Or do you prefer Klee because she's absolutely adorable and she's absurdly strong and you need a strong pyro character? Now, I understand about elemental resonance, to where you can have two of the same typing and have benefits from that. But in all honesty, I know there's a time and place for that, and you can definitely create those teams. And if you want to, there's nothing wrong with that. You can make all a Nemo team and do really well in the game. But from my experience, having a good mixture, having a team built of each typing to the best of your abilities is where you'll be able to output the most damage and have the best team synergy. And so I think having a strong character for each typing, whether that be Electro, Pyro, Cryo, and Anemo, or something different, you throw Hydro in there and Geo, I think that's where teams benefit the most, because then you can get off elemental reactions and be able to do just massive amount of damage, right? And just really be able to switch between your characters and be able to just run amok and create absolute havoc and destruction. So I find that to be the best. So where I like to build my teams is I like to have an extremely strong Anemo character, or an extremely strong character in each typing, and really just focus on them and build them up. So for example, on my team I have a really strong Anemo and Venti, a really strong Electro and Razor, a really strong Cryo and Chi-Chi, and then a decently strong Pyro and Xiao, where I am looking to replace Xiao with Klee when Klee drops, and that's one of the main reasons for me going for Klee, because I don't have goodluck. So I think that's something to where you have to think about that. You have to kind of reflect on your account, take a look at what you need, and then also take into account who would you enjoy using most, because keep in mind they're very different in the aspect that Klee's a catalyst user, Xiao's a polearm user. Xiao's very quick with his attacks. Klee is not necessarily so fast, but she has AoE capabilities built in. Just take those things into account. Really look it over. Think about what you need. Think about what you want. Once again, if you're a whale, you're most likely going for bulk, so this doesn't pertain to you. But as a free-to-play or light spender, you have to go with what you enjoy. You have to go with what would bring you the most enjoyment in the game, because that's what Genshin Impact is all about at the end of the day. Having fun, enjoying the game, and enjoying the game with characters that you want to have on your account, because each character can be extremely good, and each character can hit absurdly hard and be the meta for you, quote unquote. I'm doing the quotations in the air. If you put enough resources and time and love into them. So at the end of the day, it's your choice, but I hope this helped to give you maybe a little more of an informed decision. Hopefully it was a bit of advice, and hopefully if you were teetering on what you should do with Klee, maybe this helped out a little bit. In a sense, I didn't go over all the skills for Klee because I'm sure you've seen tons of videos of what Klee is capable of. I just thought going over the passive talents was the most important, because I think that's where Klee really shines the most. And then of course, like I mentioned, if you do get some dupes, you're gonna have an absurd character on your hand. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Hopefully this was a bit informative, and hopefully this was a bit helpful. If you did get something from it, I would truly appreciate it if you hit that like button for me. And if you've been enjoying the Genshin Impact content lately, you've been coming to each and every video, you just haven't subscribed already, go ahead and consider subscribing. It will help out tremendously. The support means a lot. And thank you guys so much for your support and everything you've been doing for the channel lately. It's been amazing. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Remember to stand out, be different, have fun, go further beyond in everything that you do. And until next time, my boys, until next time, it's your homie Cody GT, and I'm out. Bye, guys.